Even though we have a huge city called Gadara, a very large city called Hippos, and called Tiberias, we have no mention of Jesus or Jesus' disciples being there. In other hand, we have a very tiny fisherman village like Capernaum or Chorazin that's mentioned in the gospel all the time. So now, if you have a pen, just draw a line across the lake. The names on that shore is very familiar
Above
to you.
the line I drew
Bethsaida,
is all the Jewish
Chorazin,
towns.
Capernaum, Magdala, Gennesaret are familiar to us. They're very tiny little villages in there. They will not be counted as cities or towns. Jesus and the disciples' ministry is on that shore of the sea. Below that line is the other side. Other side of what? The Romans, the pagans. We don't like their side. We only go to their side when our rabbi really takes us there. When we go to their side, who we meet? Demoniacs, we meet pigs, we meet tax collectors. We don't like to go there. Their cities is where the governor sits. Those are the cities that you have temples and monuments and columns and cardos and shopping malls and everything that you have seen in these other pagan cities. They mean nothing to us at Jesus' time because they are their cities. So when Jesus wants to be alone, Jesus takes the disciples to the other side because the other side, nobody cares for the Messiah. They're not waiting for a Messiah. They have plenty of gods already. One more doesn't matter. So Jesus can be anonymous there. When Jesus happens to make a miracle to somebody from the other side, Jesus tells them, go and tell everybody what God has done to you. Because nobody there knows and they need the good news. But when Jesus makes a miracle to somebody from our side, they say, mum's the word, don't say anything. Because Jesus is a hot potato in his territory, and Herod is looking for Jesus' arrest.
It's not as if Jesus could hide from the authorities with all his popularity from performing miracles, but he was trying to downplay on all the hype about his miracles and to emphasize his teachings. The Jews were at this time looking under every rock for their promised Messiah because they assumed their Messiah would deliver them from the Romans. So Jesus was being closely watched by the authorities for any possible riots he may start, since he had such willing followers. But Jesus was just trying to get the people to be more concerned about righteousness in their hearts and lives. In connection with this, it should become quite clear why Jesus chose to never call himself the Messiah. As it was, there was at least one time the Jews were going to force him to become king, which was probably why he then chose to give his symbolic and offensive talk about his flesh being food and his blood being drink. He was trying to redirect their focus to his teachings and kill the hype over his power by making his teachings harder to understand. I believe this also holds the key for why he chose to call himself the Son of Man instead of admitting he was the Messiah. The expression Son of Man has various meanings in Scripture, but in Daniel it does refer to a human who could approach the Ancient of Days and be given everlasting dominion, plus be worshipped by all peoples. This title was known by the scholars of his time to be referring to the Promised One, but since these scholars weren't the ones that wanted Jesus to lead them in a rebellion against the Romans, they posed no threat for making Jesus their king. In contrast, the uneducated masses were the ones that were oppressed by the educated and even starved of proper teachings by them. So, the uneducated masses had to listen longer to Jesus to figure out who he was claiming to be, and thus learn more about what they really needed to hear.